All right, let's talk about how you began in MMA. There's a little bit of a dark area. We don't know how exactly you found out about MMA and how you began to start fighting.
Literally by chance, I ended up where I am here today. You know, yeah, I put in a lot of hard work and I put in a lot of years of dedication, but I mean, I didn't go out for wrestling because I thought I was going to be a great wrestler. I did it, honestly, because I can't play basketball. That was my reason for getting into my start of this sport. That's how by chance it is. I was attending Central Washington University, and a girlfriend of mine that had a dorm room next to me, she said, hey, you know, I found this MMA kind of club sport here at the college. You want to come check it out with me? And I was like, I was like, I don't think so. Then I went to my first amateur fight. I was like, whoa. I was like, this is amazing. Like, this is awesome. This is so cool. Like, and I immediately, like, my competitive self was like, if they can do it, these guys can do it, I can totally do it. And 3 weeks later, I was fighting. So it's just kind of one of those things, like, I didn't choose MMA. It definitely chose me, and it was like the stars aligned and all these things. Even though I was kind of a little reluctant, as soon as I opened my mind and gave it a chance, I fell head over heels in love with it.
Do you ever take a step back and just say, like, how did this become my life? Like, look at me making history.
There's not a day that goes by, honestly, that I don't sit back and, like, look at the sunshine out my window and be like, God, I love my life. You know what I mean? I'm so thankful. Like, I think it could have gone 100,000 different ways than it did. And it was crazy to me in my wildest dreams that I ever think that I would be here. No way.
You became very quickly a star in Strikeforce. How did that feel for you, from somebody who didn't really know what the sport was, to becoming a pretty big star in the Strikeforce organization?
I think when I really realized that I could maybe make a career out of this was after I fought Elena Maxwell. Everybody thought that I was going to lose that fight to Elena. You know, I was the smaller girl, and she had all this hype coming in from Kung Lee's gym, and she was from San Jose, so I was fighting her in her hometown. And after I beat her, I think Strikeforce is kind of like, they're like their ears went up. They're like, wait a minute, like, who's this girl? And then shortly after that, they signed me to a 3-fight contract, and that's when I really was like, man, like, I think I can do this. Like, this is a passion of mine, and it's turning into something great and awesome.
Do you remember the first time you met Ronda? Was there a reason that you guys didn't hit it off at first? Like, do you remember the very first time? Because you were already in Strikeforce and established for quite a while before she came into the organization.
You know, before I had met Ronda, like, I watched her fight once or twice on Strikeforce, and I thought she was a great fighter. I was like, oh, you know, this girl looks like she could have a bright future. She looks pretty cool, pretty awesome. And then I watched, like, a couple interviews that she did, and you know, she just immediately started targeting me and saying how she would never drop to 135. Then immediately she was dropping to 135, and then she was like, yeah, I'm going to drop down there and I'm going to slap that title out of her hands, and da-da-da-da-da. And I was just like, wait a minute. I'm like, hold on, my head is spinning right now. Who is this chick again? Like, where did she come from, and why is she so rude, like, and disrespectful?
Now, I've got to imagine when the Ultimate Fighter started, you were not surprised by things that happened, such as Ronda and her coaching staff not shaking your hand or getting flipped off or getting called names. But were you at all surprised by how the public then started reacting to that? Did you expect them to be so turning on her so quickly because of those sort of actions?
I didn't know that the fans were going to have such a shock to it, because they never saw it that way. Like, people never understood where I was coming from. That was crazy. You know, Ronda's like the golden girl. She's like the angel of the UFC and all this stuff. And then they kind of can see, like, oh, there's definitely two sides to a story. And for the first time, I feel like my side of the story was actually being voiced.
Talk to me about why you think this rematch is going to be different.
Well, it's going to be different because I'm just not the same person or the same fighter. I think I've changed a lot in both areas. I've grown a lot as a fighter, and I've grown even more as a person. I've learned how to deal with Ronda, and I think going into this fight, it has really strengthened me to spend so much time around her and to really be able to see the real Ronda. Do I think she's beatable? For sure. I think everybody's beatable, and I think the fact that I've already been in there with her once, I know what it feels like to be in there with her. And this practice, I've just been nailing everything. I mean, this whole training camp, I feel great. I feel like I'm doing everything right, and I fully believe that I'm going to go out there and I'm going to win this fight. I'm going to enter 2014 as the UFC champion.